Being very entitled and controlling, narcissists have no difficulty stepping all over your personal boundaries. So that's why I put together an extensive video class called This Is Me. It has 25 videos, written documents, guided questions. I'm going to teach you how to have healthy boundaries. There's a link below, and I hope you'll find it to be quite therapeutic. I want to see if I can help you understand the distinction between individuals who have some mood disorders versus an individual who has a character disorder. Narcissists can be very moody. They can be very angry and defensive and agitated. They can be very uncertain. Sometimes they can have anxiety. It all depends on the variety of narcissism that we're talking about. But deep down on the inside, there's something even more fundamental that they have not been able to come to terms with, and that is whatever their moods are that can be problematic are anchored to a lack of healthy character, a character disorder. That's what we're talking about. Or to put it a little bit differently, narcissists have an absence of healthy, consistent integrity. When we talk about having integrity, we're talking about you having an understanding or you've identified the standards and the values and the ethics that you know would be wisest to live with. And then secondary to that, then you actually live into those standards and values and ethics and guiding principles that you say that you want to have define you. Narcissists, instead of saying, yes, that's what I'm going to do, they have a public veneer and then they have a behind the scenes issue, and it's the behind the scenes part that they just don't want you to come to terms with. They're not very introspective. They don't want to have to look and examine who they are in a discerning kind of way. They don't like to take responsibility for the things that are wrong. Honesty is something that just kind of comes and goes with them, which means that trustworthiness is not a part of the feature either. I want to show you how integrity tends to work. When I say integrity in air quotes, tends to work with the narcissist. And then I want to see if we can compare that to a much healthier version of that. When a narcissist tries to let you think that they're an integrous individual, what you'll find is they'll adhere to certain principles and standards as long as they think it's going to get them what they want in the moment. And then if it doesn't, then they can easily ditch it. But they like to read a group and they like to figure out what is it that's going to get me on the inside road with you? How can I be in control? How can I get your acceptance, your admiration? And so they can actually give the impression that they have an ethic and a standard and that they have moralities, etc. When in fact it's like, no, they're mirroring and they're playing a chameleon kind of game with you. Likewise, in the narcissistic world, honesty is something that just kind of comes and goes based on whatever the agenda might require. If they have certain things that they want in their world, and if they have to lie about it, I can do that. That's how they think. Or if they have certain priorities that they know would bring scorn or strain or difficulty in their relationships, it's like, well, I'll just keep it secret then. And they can be sneaky. And so again, all the while they're trying to give the impression that they have good character, when in fact behind the scenes there's a whole lot more going on that they're just not letting you see. They want to convince other individuals that they're trustworthy. And then behind the scenes, they're thinking, but what you don't know about me isn't going to hurt. And so they just don't have a lot of self-disclosure, and they don't have people that they want to be accountable to. Basically, they'll tell you one thing about their history or their experiences, when in fact, their word is not their bond, and what they say is certainly susceptible to being shifted or changed just based on the circumstances. Narcissists, in their, quote, integrity, they hold a lot of double standards. which is not integrity at all. In other words, there's a certain standard they have for you, and you better do it right. But for them, it's like, well, it's fluid. For example, you better not get angry at me, but if I get angry at you, well, it's different. Or you can't spend money frivolously, but I'll spend money frivolously all I want. The double standards is their way of saying, I want you to know that you need to fit into my scheme. I don't do it in reverse with you. They're very willing to sabotage a friend or an ally. For the narcissist, loyalty is very fickle. And then to top that off, they're not very concerned about the confusion or the agitation or the hurt that they generate in other individuals. They tend not to apologize at all or say I was wrong or I'm sorry. Or even if they do so with a hook on the backside. Well, I told you I'm sorry. Now you need to act the way I want you to be. In their lack of integrity, they set themselves up to have a great deal of agitation and annoyance and irritability because they're thinking there's a certain way you're supposed to be, but you can't hold me to those same kind of principles. And so in their fear of being caught or their fear of being called out, if somebody says something that's not terribly flattering, they can come with a great deal of irritability and agitation toward you. Power, dominance, not love, is the theme that they operate with. As long as they can stay in a power position over you, they'll say whatever needs to be done. They'll give the impression that they can be someone who's trustworthy, when in fact, behind the scenes, all they're looking for is to get my way. Narcissism is defined by an attitude of entitlement, by a dismissive attitude toward other individuals. They don't care about showing empathy. Those are not characteristics that are conducive to integrity. Now, beneath the surface, there's more going on than they want you to know about. These are fear-based people. When you have to live in a way that says, well, I'm going to present myself one way, but behind the scenes, I'm something else, there's a tight defensiveness that implies. Narcissists have a great deal of fear about measuring up. They have a fear of being rejected. They have a fear of being in a subordinate kind of position. And so they just give the appearance of trying to be somebody good, when in fact, no, what they're doing is they're trying to constantly posture so that they can be in the favored position. To the narcissist, life is a competition. Relationships are a competition, and they try to constantly stay in the one-up position over you. And so if they have to present themselves in certain ways to get that goal accomplished, they're willing to do so. That's not integrity. That's phony posturing. Being in control to the narcissist is far more important than being in a trustworthy position. And so you can see that these are people who can be consistently inconsistent. They want you to think you can look to me, I'm the kind of person that's going to take care of everything the right way, when in fact behind the scenes there's a lot of chaos and uncertainty and insecurity that they're drawn upon. But again, their character and their need for admiration doesn't allow them to go into that space, which is why it's so difficult for them to change. They're way too busy trying to posture as opposed to taking a healthy self-examination. And I know that those of you who are watching this, as you look at your own personal past, you can say, I haven't done everything right, and I've made mistakes, and I've made blunders. Does that mean I have a character disorder? Well, the answer would be, well, if you continue on with that and you refuse to do anything in a constructive way, yeah, you probably do. But if you can look at yourself and say, I've made some serious mistakes, and haven't we all had our moments where, particularly in our earlier years, but it can even be in our latter years, where we've just made some serious miscalculations. Healthy individuals will say, okay, that being the case, my good character, and I'm committed to that, is going to cause me to draw certain conclusions that will keep that from becoming a defining feature for me. And so people of good character don't necessarily live a life of perfection, but they live in a life of ongoing growth and accountability. And then certain ideas become part of their way of engaging with people. Let me see if I can run through some of those ideas that imply that integrity is in fact something that you've embraced, and it can become central to what you are. For example, a person with integrity says that kindness And goodness are things that I'm committed to, and that's going to be a part of what brings me my sense of peace. The person with integrity says, I feel no need to demean or belittle someone else. That becomes contagious, and I don't want to infect people with that. Integrous people will say, honesty makes sense. Morality and ethics are not obligations to me. They're choices, and they're choices that I want to make. I like where it goes with me. Integrous individuals are internally and externally consistent. In other words, what you see is what you get. I don't want to present any kind of false presentation about who I am. With integrity, you would probably think something like, if I have to keep secrets about the decisions I've made, it's probably not the right way to go. I don't want to be a keeper of secrets. The only time I like to keep secrets is when I get somebody a nice gift and I don't want them to know until I give it to them, something like that. With integrity, you would refute egotism, and you would realize that humility is the way to go. And humility is actually the bedrock ingredient that leads to true internal strength. As a person of integrity, you would commit to respect, and respect is not just intended for people that act the way you want them to act. You can actually be a respectful person even when you're in the presence of someone that does not agree with you or does not give you a whole lot of good reason to have fluffy feelings. With integrity, you like investing in other individuals. In other words, I want my presence in someone else's life to bring them growth and goodness. And then also with integrity, you're constantly in an updating mode. If something's wrong that I've done, or if there's an error or a miscalculation, I'm willing to own it and do something with it. So you can see that narcissism, by definition, with the core ingredients that become a part of that pattern, narcissists tend not to be people that say, yeah, integrity, that's something I operate with. They want you to think that when in fact behind the scenes there's a bankruptcy. Now, the bottom line is simply this. Narcissists, with their lack of integrity, want you to think that they have good character. But good character and good integrity, unlike what goes on with a person who's hiding behind the shield of a false self, good character and integrity can simply not be faked. The truth about it is going to be revealed over time. I hope that videos such as this can give you some good food for thought and give you a good idea of what you're dealing with in them. And then also, I hope it encourages you to be the better version of yourself. If you've not already hit the subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so. And we're going to keep more videos coming in your direction. Likewise, I know that many of you have thought, I could use some therapy as I try to sift this out. I'm so pleased that I'm sponsored by the people at BetterHelp.com. There's a link below, and I've had good feedback from people who have used this. Their services are accessible. You can do it by computer or even phone, and do it at convenient times. In fact, if you go through our link, you'll get a 10% discount on the first month. So I would encourage you to go in that direction if that would be a need that you would have. Likewise, I have my therapeutic classes, and this is like signing up for an online course, and these are very extensive. The classes have multiple videos and written materials and guided questions. We have Ready, Set, Connect. We have This Is Me, about establishing boundaries, Free to Be, Finding Yourself. I have my webinars that have been presented, but now they're available to you, and they're all on our website, survivingnarcissism.tv. We have our podcast. We have plenty of resources. We have my books and other items. They're all listed below. I'm hoping that you can be a person of integrity. I want to be a person of integrity. And when the narcissist says, hey, me too, I think we need to have enough discernment to say, wait a minute, I'm on to you. And rather than just getting pulled into their superficiality, I hope you realize these are individuals who are trying to present something because they've not really come to terms with who they are. Don't buy into it, and instead focus on you being the person of good character that you can be. And in doing so, you become the individual who's able to live with peace.